Hi, everyone. Yeah, it's pretty cold today. I was listening to a podcast yesterday by Dr. Vinay Prasad, a very, very well-known cardiologist who's done lots and lots of research and understands research very well. And he was asking the question, can we trust medical research? It's not the first time this question has come up, and lots of very, very good scientists have spoken about the subject. In fact, here's a quote from Richard Horton, who was editor of The Lancet, which is an incredibly prestigious medical journal. And he says, the case against science is straightforward. He's probably referring to medical science. Much of the scientific literature, perhaps half, may simply be untrue, afflicted by studies with small sample sizes, tiny effects, invalid exploratory analysis, and flagrant conflict of interest, together with an obsession for pursuing fashionable trends of dubious importance. Science has taken a turn towards darkness. He's the editor of The Lancet. Editor Richard Smith, editor of the BMJ, another very prestigious medical journal, says the poor quality of medical research is widely acknowledged, yet disturbingly the leaders of the medical profession seem only minimally concerned about the problem and make no apparent effort to find a solution. So why is this so? It's obvious why it's so. Any professor of medicine, if he wants to get anywhere, and any professor is pretty ambitious, if he wants to get anywhere, he has to do good research. Where does the money come from? Good research, the money for research comes from pharmaceutical companies. What do the pharmaceutical companies have in mind in giving research to medical schools? Well, they have very clear endpoints. They are a business. Their shareholders are interested in only in making more money. So they're very clear what kind of results they want and very clear who they're going to give money to. They're going to give money to ambitious scientists, medical scientists, who are prepared to get the results that they want. You can't publish something from a pharmaceutical-driven research grant that doesn't support that. You won't get money anymore. So what happens is that results are dependent on supporting the pharmaceutical background. So studies are biased. Studies are driven by that incredible bias. So what tends to happen is that the results are driven in a particular kind of way. And then doctors talk about relative versus absolute results. Well, there's a big difference in relative and absolute. I don't want to go into that at all. But if you only talk about relative results, then it's not meaningful at all. And yet often that is the way the newspapers and the social media take hold of it. The trouble is that a lot of the research is not even reproducible. The moment you start to do it reproducible, try to make it repeatable, if you try to make it repeatable, you find that the second result doesn't conform to the result of the first one. And the more research you do on the same drug or the same endpoint that you want, you find that you get different endpoints. So the result is that it looks pretty messy. So nobody wants to repeat the study because you often don't get the same results. So that's the problem. So you have ambitious professors running research with a very clear endpoint, and the moment that they start to see the endpoint is not coming out, they just stop the research. So instead of doing a 10-year study, they might do a 5-year study. So the trouble is that, and the transparency is not very good. They don't allow you to see the actual background of the research results. They only allow you to see what they want you to see. They don't tell you all the stuff that's happening in the background. I've done research myself, and I know how one tends to leave out studies or people where the results don't quite fit in. So you just leave them out. You find a good reason for leaving them out so that your results can look more robust. So that's the trouble. And of course, as I've often pointed out, you're only testing one drug. Most people are on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 drugs. There's no research for that. So if you're getting more than 2 drugs, you must know that you are just a scientific experiment. There's no research for it. We don't know how these drugs interact. So problematic. And so can you trust the results? Well, can you trust everything that ChatGPT says? No. And yet ChatGPT probably has more background information than anybody has, but you can't trust it. So how are you going to make any sense then of medical science? It's messy, it's untrustworthy, it's biased, it's driven by money, big money, very big money. So what can you trust? Who can you trust? Yeah, so it's problematic for medical doctors like myself, for example. How do we make decisions? Well, it's not easy. And as I keep pointing out, a lot of the time, everybody's guessing. A lot of the time, everybody's hoping that it's not going to be a disaster, that what we're doing, whether it's giving a vaccination to a child or giving a drug of any kind. Of course, with natural remedies, you're playing it a little bit safer because remember, natural remedies are not there to interfere with the function, but to support health. So whereas drugs are clearly blocking a biochemical process, are very different. So what do? You've got to take a chance, don't you? Just in the same way as you're getting to your motor car, it's not exactly an absolutely safe thing to do, driving your motor car and going to town. And yet we all do it. We get into our aeroplanes. 100% safe? No way. So we live at that edge constantly. And I'm not saying there's no place for drugs, and all I'm saying is take care, because medical science can't be trusted. Your own experience is probably just as good as anything else. So in the end, learn to trust your experience, learn to trust your gut feeling. In the end, it's just as good as anything else. Have a good day.